I honestly thought that I would never see this day come. But today, courtesy of Arabian Business, comes news that the United Arab Emirates is circulating a proposal within the government that would allow the country to grant UAE citizenship to entrepreneurs, investors, professionals, and special talents living in the country. Rather than just letting people work or run their business in the UAE, now you would be able to become a citizen of the UAE. It's a developing story. I'm going to break down the proposal and what this means. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and here at Nomad Capitalist, we combine my more than a dozen years of experience living all around the world, meeting and building a network, and building our own team of almost 30 people to help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally go where they're treated best. Lower taxes, more personal freedom, more options. You can go to nomadcapitalist.com. This could be a bombshell. The UAE, part of a region that historically has not been known to naturalize anyone, has not been open to dual citizenship, now potentially joining the ranks of countries that allow residents who move there to start businesses, work at high-paying jobs, to actually become citizens of their country. If this happens, this would be a remarkable change in how this part of the world operates. And it's been interesting to see over the last couple of years. Saudi Arabia has started to liberalize. Countries like the UAE have opened up their diplomatic relations with Israel. And now you are seeing a shift potentially not only to more liberal residence and visa policies, allowing people to come in with different types of investments and stay longer, as long as 10 years for some people, but even now potentially obtain citizenship. Now, before we get into this, let's be clear on two different things. First of all, the difference between residence and citizenship. We've talked about that in other YouTube videos. But very simply, it is possible to become a resident of the UAE right now by buying real estate, starting a company, of course, by getting a job. You can go and you can live. And the deal basically was, when you stop running your business, when you sell your real estate, or when you get fired or quit your job, get out. You got to go. You can't stay. And people have talked about how they're very efficient at getting people out, right? Of course, you can also go as a tourist, but that is resident status. It never led to anything. And so Dubai did roll out a program called Retire in Dubai with the goal of keeping high earners, people who had lived there, or people who are coming from somewhere else to stick around and retire there and keep people around after their working years. So they have been moving more towards keeping people after their work time in Dubai or in the UAE. But citizenship would be a step further. And so citizenship has not been possible up until now. And so understand that residence and citizenship are different. One is permanent, one is not necessarily permanent. The other thing is, what happens if you become a UAE citizen? There's one particular firm that touts that the UAE has the best passport in the world. Only UAE citizens are entitled to a UAE passport. I'm not entirely sure how a country which does not have visa waiver status to the United States, one of the most sought-after countries in the world to visit, can have the best passport, better than 40 other countries that do have that status. But that has been discussed. In my opinion, the UAE certainly does not have the best passport in the world. On our annual Nomad Passport Index, we ranked it well, but not in the upper echelon, simply because while UAE citizens can visit Canada, can visit Europe, can visit the UK, they've done a remarkable job of getting visa-free travel to great countries, they still can't visit the US, and therefore the UAE passport is probably what I would call a tier A- passport. You're missing a few of the most sought-after countries. So it's a great travel document, but it's not absolutely the best. Now let's go through some of the criteria that you'll need to qualify for the citizenship in the proposal that is circulating. The first one may be a deal breaker for many because it will not be your second passport. It will be your only passport because you will have to renounce your original nationality and any others. So, if you're someone like myself and you've built a passport portfolio, any passports that they know about, and I think you probably don't want to mess with them, you would have to turn over, and you will now be exclusively a UAE citizen if you take them up on this currently pending proposal. You'll need to have lawful and current residence in the country, so pretty much like any other country, if you used to live there, you can't come back and claim your citizenship years later. It's not clear to me as of now. How long that residence will be, my thought is it won't be extremely quick. It will not be some kind of 3-year or 5-year process. My thought is they will perhaps follow more of a Swiss model or even an Andorra or a San Marino model where it's going to be 10, 12 years. I think 20 or 30 probably too much, but 10 or 12 years might be the guidelines that I'm thinking. Maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe they'll go down to something like 7, but I don't imagine it being some super fast track option. Number 3, to be fluent in Arabic language. One benefit that a lot of Westerners, including some people that I see and I work with, that we have go and live in Dubai or go and live in Abu Dhabi is you don't need to speak Arabic. You can speak English. You can speak Russian. You can speak whatever it is. And people like to go there because of that. But if you want to be a citizen, and I understand them, you need to speak Arabic. Number 4, that you have legitimate means of subsistence. You're not broke. Okay. Number 5, this is an issue for potentially people like me. You need an academic qualification. As a college dropout, I have not been as favored in some of these countries where they want highly talented people. Now, I think that there could be perhaps an exception put in there for if you run a business. Singapore has some of these provisions where if you have experience running a business with X turnover and this many years of management experience, that could perhaps bypass academic credentials. But as of right now, that's one of the qualifications that's needed. Number 6, to be of good conduct. Of course, they don't want you to have been in jail or anything like that. Number 7, that you've not been convicted of any felony or misdemeanor that violates honor or trust unless you've been rehabilitated. Pretty standard. Number 8, obtain security approval. And number 9, swear an oath of allegiance to the state. So all pretty good, all pretty standard reasons that a country would naturalize you. So if you are looking for a UAE citizenship, and you like the idea of living in Dubai or Abu Dhabi tax-free, this may become an option for, again, some entrepreneurs, investors, as well as professionals, people that they want to attract to the country. My initial thought on this is it's probably not going to be as possible for the people who would most be interested in it. So if you're from the Philippines, if you're from Pakistan, it seems like those people who in some of the less liberal countries in the region, there's actually a written caste system, may not be as readily available for them. Obviously, if you tell a Pakistani citizen, hey, you can become a citizen of the UAE, I think most people would jump at that. If you tell a British or an American citizen you got to learn Arabic and you have to give up all of your other passports, probably not as interesting. Of course, what makes this such a much more interesting possibility than almost any other country in the world that naturalizes people in a pretty standard way is you have to live there, you've got to speak the language, but unlike Germany or the US or France or Australia, you can live there tax-free. And so that is often what gets in the way of people that we work with where it's like, okay, I'd like to get a second passport. I'm willing to live in one place, but I don't want to go and live in a European country that's going to take half of my money for 7 years just so I can get a passport, right? It becomes much more cost-effective to use a citizenship by investment program, even some of the, even Malta, the expensive $1 million plus program. So, the benefit that I see here is if you believe in, this part of the world is having a future, and I think it's a very good place to do business. We have part of our business in the UAE. I have banks in the UAE, so I'm on board with the country. But I see it as a challenge for people who perhaps they would like to attract the most because of the language and the renunciation requirements. Now, that hasn't stopped people from becoming Singaporean citizens in the past. Obviously, the language was not the burden there, but the renunciation was, and on top of a military requirement, on top of certain restrictions like going to the casino. On top of the government that's a bit more, in control of your life. And so, I think that it could be of interest to some people, but I think mostly what I'm utterly fascinated by is the idea that this part of the world is opening up. Turkey with its citizenship by investment program, that's kind of a whole different ball game, and Turkey has always been kind of different. But, this part of the Gulf region has always been very much a come, live, work, contribute, enjoy everything tax-free, have a great life, but when you're done, go back to where you're from. And so this could be a remarkable change. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If you want us to keep you updated on this going forward, if this is something that's of interest to you, leave a comment below so I know that you'd like to hear more updates as opportunities like this develop. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.